My girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend. Even saying that sentence out loud still feels surreal. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. The worst part was how long it had been happening right under my nose, while I trusted both of them completely. And when I finally discovered the truth, I decided I wasn't going to quietly walk away. I was going to expose them both. My name is Daniel. I'm 27 years old, and until recently, I thought I had a pretty solid life. I had a decent job, a small but comfortable apartment, and a girlfriend I had been with for almost 3 years. Her name was Lisa. She was the kind of person people instantly liked. Funny, outgoing, confident, the type of woman who could walk into a room and immediately become the center of attention. And then there was Mark. Mark had been my best friend since high school. We met when we were 16 and instantly clicked. Same sense of humor, same interests, same stupid teenage mistakes. Over the years, we became inseparable. He was the guy who helped me move into my first apartment, the guy who stood next to me when my dad passed away, the guy I trusted more than almost anyone. So, naturally, when Lisa and I started dating, Mark became part of our lives too. At first, everything seemed perfect. The three of us would hang out constantly. Movie nights, weekend trips, random late-night food runs. It felt like we had our own little circle. Looking back now, the warning signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. It started with small things. Lisa suddenly began texting more than usual. Whenever I walked into the room, she would quickly turn her phone over on the table. At first, I ignored it. Everyone deserves privacy. But then I noticed something else. Mark started coming over more often. At first, it felt normal. He would drop by to watch a game or grab a drink like we always did. But sometimes when I walked into the room, they would suddenly stop talking. There would be this awkward silence for a few seconds. Then one of them would quickly change the subject. Again, I told myself I was overthinking. These were the two people I trusted the most in the world. Why would they ever betray me like that? Then, one night, something happened that I couldn't ignore. We were sitting in the living room watching a movie. Lisa was sitting on the couch, and Mark was in the chair across from her. At some point, I got up to grab a drink from the kitchen. It took maybe 30 seconds, but when I came back, something felt different. Lisa and Mark both looked up at the exact same moment, and the expressions on their faces weren't normal. Lisa looked startled. Mark looked guilty, like they had just been caught doing something they weren't supposed to do. "What?" I asked. Lisa forced a laugh. "Nothing." Mark quickly grabbed the remote and started talking about the movie. And somehow, the moment just passed. But something inside me had already changed. For the first time, a thought crossed my mind that I never imagined before. What if something was actually going on between them? I hated myself for even thinking it, but once the idea entered my head, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Over the next few days, I started noticing more things, small things. Lisa suddenly became protective of her phone. Mark started texting me less, but somehow still showed up at the apartment when I wasn't expecting him. And then one night, everything finally came crashing down. I got off work earlier than usual. My boss had let us leave 2 hours early, so I decided to head home and surprise Lisa. Maybe we could order food, watch something, just relax. But when I pulled into the parking lot outside my apartment, the first thing I noticed was a car I knew very well. Mark's car. I frowned. He hadn't mentioned coming over. Still, I shrugged it off and headed upstairs. But the moment I stepped into the hallway outside my apartment door, I heard something that made my heart stop. Laughter. Lisa's laughter. And Mark's voice. Inside my apartment. The door was locked, but I could hear them clearly through it. At first, I thought they were just hanging out. But then I heard something that made my stomach drop. Lisa said something softly, and Mark laughed and replied, "You're going to get us caught." My heart started pounding. I froze outside the door. Suddenly, every strange moment from the past few weeks rushed back into my mind. Every awkward silence, every secretive text, every suspicious look. And at that moment, I knew, but I still needed to see it for myself. My hands were shaking as I stood outside the door. Part of me wanted to walk away. Part of me wanted to pretend I had heard nothing and come back later like everything was normal. But deep down, I already knew the truth, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I slowly took my keys out of my pocket. For a few seconds, I just stared at the door. Then, I unlocked it. The moment I pushed it open, the laughter stopped. The apartment went completely silent. I stepped inside, and the first thing I saw was Mark. He was standing in the middle of the living room, his shirt half unbuttoned. Lisa was sitting on the couch behind him. Her hair was messy, and she looked like someone had just poured ice water over her head. For a few seconds, none of us said anything. The air felt heavy, like the entire room was holding its breath. Mark was the first to speak. "Bro, this isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed, because it was exactly what it looked like. My best friend, my girlfriend, in my apartment, alone. I felt this strange calm wash over me. Not anger, not rage, just a cold, quiet realization. Everything I thought I had was fake. Lisa stood up slowly. "Daniel, I can explain." I shook my head. "No, don't." She stopped talking immediately. Mark looked like he wanted to disappear. He kept glancing between me and the door, like he was calculating how fast he could escape. But I wasn't interested in fighting them. I wasn't interested in yelling. Instead, I asked one simple question. How long? Neither of them answered. I repeated it. How long has this been going on? Mark rubbed the back of his neck. "Man, it just happened." Lisa quickly added, "It didn't mean anything." That sentence made something snap inside me. Not because I believed them, but because they actually thought I was stupid enough to accept that answer. So I asked again, "How long?" This time, Lisa spoke quietly. "A few months." The room started spinning. A few months. That meant every time we hung out together, every time we watched movies, every time we went out for dinner, they had both been lying to me to my face. I looked at Mark. "Since when were you planning to tell me?" He didn't answer, because the truth was obvious. They never planned to. I walked past them into the kitchen, not because I needed anything, but because I needed a second to breathe. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might explode. But then something interesting happened. Instead of feeling broken, I started thinking about everything they had done, thinking about how they had lied to me for months, thinking about how they probably believed they would never get caught. And suddenly, I realized something. If they wanted to humiliate me like this, I wasn't going to let them walk away quietly. I walked back into the living room. Lisa looked nervous now. Mark looked even worse. "Daniel,
Please, Lisa said softly, let's talk about this. I nodded. Oh, we will. Then I picked up my phone. Mark frowned. What are you doing? I opened my contacts list and started scrolling. Lisa's eyes widened. Daniel, what are you doing? I looked at both of them and said calmly, I'm making sure everyone knows what kind of people you really are. Mark's face turned pale. You wouldn't do that. I smiled slightly. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with my girlfriend. Then I pressed the first call button, and everything started falling apart for them.
The first person I called was Mark's girlfriend. Yes, Mark had a girlfriend. Her name was Jenna, and she had been dating him for almost 2 years. She answered after a few rings. Hey Jenna, what's up? I looked straight at Mark while I spoke. Hey Jenna, I just thought you should know something. Mark suddenly stepped forward. Bro, don't do this. I ignored him. I just walked into my apartment, I continued calmly, and found Mark and Lisa together. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Jenna said slowly, What do you mean, together? I didn't sugarcoat it. I mean, they've been sleeping together. Lisa gasped, Daniel, stop! But I wasn't finished. You deserve to know the truth. Jenna hung up without saying another word. The room was completely silent again. Mark looked like he was about to panic. You just ruined everything, he said quietly. I shook my head. No. You ruined everything. Lisa stepped closer to me. You didn't have to do that. I looked at her in disbelief. You cheated on me for months with my best friend, and you're upset because I told the truth? She didn't answer, because there was no answer that could justify what they had done. Mark grabbed his jacket. Man, I'm leaving. I nodded. Good idea. As he walked toward the door, he turned back once. I never meant for it to happen like this. I stared at him. You never meant to get caught. He didn't say anything else. He just left. And just like that, the best friendship I had for more than 10 years was over. Lisa was still standing in the middle of the living room. She looked smaller somehow, less confident, less powerful than she had looked just an hour earlier. Daniel, she said softly, I'm sorry. Those 2 words might have meant something before, but now they meant absolutely nothing. You're sorry you got caught, I said. Tears started forming in her eyes. That's not fair. I laughed quietly. Not fair? You cheated on me with my best friend in my own apartment, and you're talking about fairness? She sat down on the couch and covered her face. For a moment, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered the last few months, the lies, the secret messages, the moments they looked at each other when they thought I wasn't paying attention, and the sympathy disappeared instantly. I walked to the bedroom and grabbed a bag. Lisa looked up. What are you doing? Packing. Her voice cracked. You're leaving? I zipped the bag. Yes. She stood up quickly. Daniel, please, we can fix this. I looked at her one last time. No. Some things you don't fix. You walk away from them. And with that, I walked out of the apartment. I didn't look back. Over the next few weeks, the truth spread quickly. Jenna broke up with Mark immediately. Apparently, she found messages on his phone that confirmed everything. Mark tried reaching out to me a few times. I never answered. As for Lisa, she sent a few long apology texts, then a few angry ones, then silence. And honestly, that silence felt better than anything she could have said.
Because sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on with your life without the people who betrayed you.